So you remember Friday when I was training with Holden and then you showed up?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we left. We were heading back to the gym. I was like, I'll walk up to the gym with you because his car was at the gym. And we end up going by the brick spot that is on 5th in Quebec, where Corey did that really high wall run.
Yeah.
Guess who also did the high wall run?
Holden.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm filming him do it, and I got my backpack on. By the way, this is at Holden the bag we're talking about here on Instagram. So I got my backpack on. I don't realize his bag is on a ledge, and a homeless guy comes by and he's rummaging around, and we're there just getting clip after clip of him attempting this wall run until he finally gets it. And after he's trying to find his bag, I put 2 and 2 together and realized, okay, some homeless guy walked away with his bag. And this is like a Vancouver thing where, and I think you had mentioned this at one time when you first came out here, that we just leave our stuff. Like we're just, leaving our stuff all the time. I've been doing this for almost 20 years and I have never had anything taken. Sometimes it's just power in numbers. Like you put your bags together and it's all good. But this was a time where, and it was like right in front of us too. Like it's so funny.
That actually happened to me in Florida, like right before I moved here.
Really?
Yeah, I had my bag stolen from a homeless guy. So there was like must have been 2 of them because one guy came over and was distracting us and talking to us, and then like at a certain point he walked away. We're training. I'm training barefoot because that was cool back then. And then I step in an ant pile. I get bitten by ants, fire ants. Oh. And I'm like, oh crap, I should put my shoes on. So I go to look for my bag and my bag is gone. My shoes, my wallet, keys, cell phone, everything is gone. And my friend's stuff was in there too. So I had to I ran home barefoot. And I was locked out.
Old school.
Yeah. It was an experience, but it actually I ended up getting my bag back with my phone and everything.
Nice.
But at the time it wasn't a good phone, right? This is pre-iPhone era. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
Got my shoes back too.
Sweet. So actually, we start to walk/run. To see if because this guy was moving slow, he was not your typical, I guess, Vancouver homeless person who clearly is malnourished and not doing well and probably needed whatever was in Holden's bag. But we're jogging around and I'm just trying to explain to him the situation. We're probably gonna have to offer this guy something. He's like, why? And I'm like, oh man, this is how these things go down. You can't we're not gonna threaten the guy with violence because he didn't actually steal it. He just picked it up. But we can't find him. I end up going home, getting my car. We drive around just because I had a good look at this guy. It was red jacket shopping cart, right? And we just can't find red jacket shopping cart. Holden wants me to go all the way to East Hastings. If you're from Vancouver, you know how much of a bad idea that is. But I take him there anyway. I'm entertaining the whole thing. He's got to learn what this is about, and he just sees the sheer amount of people on Hastings. Yeah. And I said, we're not gonna find it. We do a couple more loops, go around, and he's telling me I haven't realized the gravity of the situation yet. And then he turns to me and he says, I guess I'm not holding the bag. Anyway, that was the story. That was the punchline.
Oh wow! I thought you were gonna say you found the guy.
So, anyways, I got more details of the story today because he came in to work out with us this morning, and actually, his parents were driving and found the guy.
No way.
Yes, just by the description of red jacket shopping cart, and they paid him $60 and they got his phone. He said something about maybe not getting his wallet or if he had any, but they paid him $60 in cash and he's basically all good.
Wow, that's wild. So you did find the guy. That's cool. Well, not you, but yeah. Wow, what a story that is.
Anyways, last week we were talking about Hazel and you weren't here, so you've watched it now.
I watched it. I didn't watch the extras yet.
Neither have I, actually. I haven't tuned into that part of it.
Yeah, I am intending to do that. But I loved the video. I loved it. there was some weird parts to it that I felt like probably could have not been in it, and I would have enjoyed it maybe even more. Like I didn't really vibe with like the hydraulic car, for instance. Like, it was like, okay, that's some B-roll that was in there, but could have done without it. But for the most part, I loved the whole video. I felt the pacing was really well. The music choice was spot on. It felt like a perfect blend of like really cool, like technical lines, if you will, and like bigger single kind of challenges, almost like Capstone-esque, which we'll get into in a little bit. But overall, like, I love the quality of Ethan's movement, and I felt like the edit came together so well that I was happy to spend the $8 Canadian on it.
All right, so go to, is it Modus Projects or themodusprojects.com?
I think it's the Modus Projects.
The TheMotus projects, projects.com,
COM.
and order Hazel for a few bucks, and you'll have a great viewing experience.
Okay, so you talked about Hazel all last week. So today is November 21st, which you're probably going to be watching this or listening to this after this date, but this is the date that Capstone has dropped Swarm. That was my intro to Capstone. So That's all I got so far. Do we want to go over big picture? Like, what are our initial thoughts of it? Because this will kind of like unravel as we go.
So I opened my phone this morning, as you do, first thing you do when you wake up, and I see that Capstone is already up, and it's everywhere on Instagram. Everyone's sharing it. Capstone also just put out like a bunch of posts, like this shirt, this hoodie, this sort of thing, which I thought was like just a great strategy. Like, get everything out there. Cool. There's lots of hype around it. Everyone's saying watch it. So I did. And the first thing I noticed when I click on it is oh, this is 17 and a half minutes. So I didn't actually sit down right away. I made some breakfast. I got everything set. I'm like, I can't watch this on my phone. I gotta got the whole the setup going. And I did really enjoy it. I did feel like in a bunch of ways they exceeded my expectations in terms of movement. I'm going to throw this back to you real quick. Did you feel like it is better than the other two, or do you feel like one of the other two ranks above it? We're talking about, so Australia, London, and then this one is Swarm. I guess they're dropping the city or country titles.
Yeah, well, because this wasn't filmed explicitly. Because I think largely it was filmed in Prague.
Oh, really?
But I noticed that there was definitely other cities that were in there. I don't know if they needed more, so they went and got pickup shots or whatever. But
and you've watched it twice. You watched it twice now.
I watched it twice. Yeah, so I watched it twice. I didn't watch it first thing in the morning. I actually came to work out because I thought we were gonna watch it together.
Yeah, I know. I confused you. I'm sorry. But I also want to say, in my defense here, having watched it once, anything I say, I have the right to go back on. I can next week. I can rewind this whole thing. But in the comments, be gentle if there's anything you disagree with.
Excused. I watched it 2 times. Okay, so they Sorry, what was your question?
My question was, how does it rank against the other two?
Yes. So if I'm looking at just like okay, this is hard for me to answer because I think I've publicly said that I didn't particularly like either of the previous ones. It's not that I didn't like them, but I wasn't like, I felt I had something it built up in my head, and then the previous ones like didn't quite live up to the standard I had in my mind. If I, having gone and watched all of them again, which, I've seen England a few times, I've seen Australia a few times, I think I liked the, for lack of a better word, impact of Australia. And for England, I liked the personality that they had, especially at the end. Where they're like, walking with the swagger.
Yeah.
In terms of this one, just the sheer bangerness of it was pretty like up there. Like in terms of what happens in the video, I was pretty blown away by most of it, right? So so did I like it more or less than the previous ones? I don't know if I can answer that question like accurately, but we'll get into like whether I really enjoyed it or not.
For me, it ranks as number one out of all three, mostly because of the movement, the improvements in cinematography also was a big one for me. Like I think the Caps. I don't know when I say they. I'm still like, who is Capstone?
Capstone is Sam Carter, Justin Louis, and Phil Doyle.
Okay, and then Toby is just guest editor.
Sure.
/ athlete this time. Yeah, I'm starting to lose. We talked about this a bit, not last week, or maybe the week before. Yeah, when the teaser came out, we talked a little bit about like what the vision seems to be, and with the first two, the vision seems to be like Capstone being like, how far can we push some of these movements? How far can we push jumps, drops, and stuff? I feel like this one confuses it because I didn't feel like that's what this one was about.
I mean, I still think it's in that direction of like scale, size, capstone, like the highest level of the movement. But yeah, I think you're right. There are definitely more like lines in there or things that were potentially not. And I'll say it now. I felt like there was some clips in this one that didn't fit. It didn't belong. There was definitely like a series of absolute monster clips, and then there was definitely some fluff, if you will. And that's not to say that these were like subpar clips. It's just that it didn't, in my mind, match the capstone level that they're seemingly trying to promote here. And it felt like some of the clips just missed the brand. So that was
right. Okay, so before we kind of get into that, I actually want to ask you favorite moment.
It's so hard to answer this because there's so many like moments that happen in it. Like one that stands out very strongly is Toby's like climb to the bridge dive.
A little biased there.
A little bit biased. Now it's like it's not even like, in my opinion, the climb itself wasn't even the coolest part. It's just that he climbed the bridge. There was a commitment moment of like a big jump over the height, and then also like the send into the water afterward. I think that was like a really cool moment in general. But man, like I could go through the list of like Dominic Fichtenbauer's Kong Pri, Joe Scandrett, like everything in Joe Scandrett's part. Sam Carter's first jump, like the very first jump.
I was waiting for you to hit that one because that one's mine.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about this before, like when the trailer came out.
I also, just with that jump, real quick, if I can jump in here with that one, because that is like, that's the standout one for me, but it's just, I wish I could convey how many, like the reasons why. I'm going to try here. So one is the way they shot it, because they have height. There's like I think they put a drone on it. But it's definitely shot from height, and so you get the danger. Like there's something about, I can't remember who, a person in cinematography told me this at one point, but like I think I was shooting with a photographer or something at some point, and they were talking about when they're like bottom up, you don't get a sense of the danger. Actually, when you're top down, because you can see the drop, you get more of a sense of the danger. So something to think about when you're shooting parkour if you're trying to sell it. But also, I wasn't sure from the trailer like what was going to happen, and that was very cool for me. And that was like one of the things I thought would happen, is that he would pop and slip. I also thought there may have been like some sort of way to like plyo off the top of the thing that he's landing on. But just such a cool send, because I want to hear from him, and maybe he's already went on video and said this on another podcast or something, but I want to know from him like what he thought was going to happen and how he prepped for that. Because it's quite the send to be landing on something like that and being like, this is going to be
that
okay.
Height. And it's not like the wall, like you could jump from the top of it, like the jump, but it's so much smaller compared to the scale of the billboard that he was. So one of the cool things about that clip is also like he doesn't really get to choose when he goes.
Yeah, because it's
know what I mean? Because it's rotating, he has to he's like, all right, it's on this one. And I wonder how many rotations he went before he actually committed. Because you know, you've done parkour for a long time. There's a window that you're trying to find to be able to find commitment. And he has such a short window every time. Every time it passes, it's just like, okay, you got to jump now. And then maybe he missed it, right? Or maybe he did it first try. I don't know. But it seems so mental to have to commit in a moment that you don't get to decide. So cool. Definitely one of the coolest moments. And I think this is one of the things I liked about this one was that it started off so strong. I loved. I mean, that's not to say that England wasn't a cool start, because Yanis Shower did the rail slide in the rain to descent. That was cool. I felt like they didn't sell it very well in that project as much as this one sells on camera. This one sells holy crap. Look at the scale of this. Look, they had to climb up onto this rotating billboard. He had a small window to actually make the jump, and it's like a massive jump to a slide that seemingly you can't prep.
Yeah, it may not be the hardest thing in the video, but it stands out to me as the best clip for everything we've already just laid out there.
Yeah. Another one in terms of clip is the drone shot of Dominic Fichtenbauer's Kong. This is also in the trailer where they cut it. It's just he's a massive run-up. I think one thing that I didn't like as much was that I almost wanted to see that first before the ground cam.
Yeah, and that's another big takeaway going into it, is that they decided to go in parts. So athlete parts.
Yeah.
Good idea or bad idea?
There's so many athletes. It was, on the one hand, I felt like it was good because you knew who it was in the clip. On the other hand, they had their parts were so short individually that you almost need a part video to have your own individual song.
Yeah.
And if this is so, I mean,
they would need to be doing more. Each athlete would have to do more pieces. Some of them only did 2 things.
Yeah.
And then they were
two
out.
or three things, and then it's on to the next person, and it kind of the song bleeds into the next person. And this is actually an issue I had with it was Hazel's part. She did 2 things basically, and one of them obviously resulted in a horrible injury, but there was barely any coverage of that, which I felt like it almost didn't do Hazel justice, and that it felt like her part was just tacked on after. I think she was the 3rd athlete, so I think it was after Tim Champion. Just kind of went into Hazel. I might be wrong about this, but it just went into Hazel's part. Same song, kind of slow, feeling song, and it didn't feel like it did it as much justice as it could have. It could have shown more of the aftermath, which.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is Sam, Toby, whoever's making the calls on the edit is maybe we shouldn't show how severe this was. Although it's weird because on one hand we talked about this the previous week where we have kids coming in and sending a huge cat leap. And my hypothesis, and again, this is all just anecdotal and everything, but my hypothesis is that, he's seen a number of videos of people doing this type of thing and didn't realize what was going to happen when he landed. And so if you kind of hide some of the stuff, I wonder if that's a bad thing for people not to see the gravity of the situation after.
Yeah, because there was also seemingly another injury that was Devin. He did
That's what that was. Yeah, I
720
only
or something.
watched it once.
And he landed and kind of like his ankle seemed to have been injured in that moment, which we don't know anything about. But so I guess I want to quickly wrap up on this part, which is that there's issues that I felt with the music and pacing.
Yeah.
And I know you wanted to kind of like talk about this independently here, but music and pacing felt like just wrong. Like the very first song felt like, yes, we're hitting really nice and hard here. But after that moment, it felt like, oh, let's just take it down, nice and slow music for like most of the video. And then it kind of comes back up towards the end and it felt better. But the pacing of the actual video felt wrong. Like this is the part that this is why I actually watched it a second time, because the whole time I'm like, I'm not feeling things as much as I feel like I should be, because these are some like crazy moves that are happening here, but I'm not feeling anything from watching it. And I think largely that was driven by the edit to the music, and so the music that's being used and like some of the timing and pacing choices and just the general composition of the video, which some of it felt really on, but not for the whole 17 minutes. And that was, I kind of came away watching the first time like, man, there's some cool stuff in there, but I didn't feel it, you know? So I watched it a second time and I liked it more the second time around, but that was a part to the video that I particularly enjoy. But quickly to go back to what you're talking about with like the bails and like, how do you feel about Justin Louis' part?
That's a whole other thing. I actually, before we get onto that,
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around.
I actually have quite a bit to say about the music and the pacing.
Oh, okay.
So they're two different things to me. So one, the music. Interestingly enough, for me, I found a soul singer that I got into in the last couple weeks, Charles Bradley, and he has a bunch of covers he does. He used to be a James Brown impersonator, but I really just went into like Apple Music and just started going through. I'm like, oh, he does this song and that. I don't know if he does the originals and stuff, but the band he plays with is also like really good. And I just, anytime I'm listening to music, I can't not do this. I always think like, what does this look like with parkour?
Yeah.
And it's probably because like when I got into parkour to start with, I came out to my first jam to film. I did not come out to my first jam to do parkour. I came out to my first jam to film parkour, followed the guys around, went onto a roof, did my first drop and everything, and released an edit. And I didn't really start training until like after that day.
Right.
So I guess that's just part of it for me, is like I always just, music and movement always just kind of are one thing for me. And there was a song, so this is kind of fits into that genre they were going with. So they had a bit of soul, they had a bit of classic rock, and I think there's like a time period they're trying to hit here, and it feels kind of skate, but it also feels like, I don't know the artist they use, but it feels like, you know, just kind of like Jimi Hendrix era. And I think that was the vibe they were going for. And I think for a lot of say young people watching it, I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work really well. Their target to me is a niche. Their target is a niche of people that are already doing parkour, because they're trying to sell those t-shirts. They're trying to get the right, and they're trying to make stuff that they probably also really like. I think this is like an artistic choice. So they're not trying to go after, you know, let's see how many eyeballs we can get on this video. And I think that's one way you can go. You can try to sell something, because if you are trying to sell t-shirts and trying to sell the brand at the end of the day, then you can target a wide audience or you can target a niche. In this case, they're trying to target a niche, and I think they're actually doing that beautifully. And I think it's probably actually going to work really well. And I liked it, but I did feel like, and this is the other point, was the edit pacing. And this is another kind of bold choice they made, was they decided to let shots sit and hold. Mm-hmm. And part of that, again, could be an artistic choice, because they're beautiful shots. So they got drone shots, they got zooms, and they got all these things where it's just like, we're just gonna hold on this. And it's it's not something you're used to seeing because you're used to faster cuts. And in fact, in cinema, the longer like cinema has existed for, the less you see a shot for. So if you look at like, I don't know, go watch an Alfred Hitchcock film and it'll be a conversation and it'll be like this. It'll just be like, we're going to be on this shot of these two guys and it's going to be framed nicer than this and everything and lit nicer, but they're going to sit on it for a long time without cuts, whereas you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think it was, I didn't reach any, during this 17 and a half minutes, I didn't reach any points where I felt like, I want to watch something else, which can happen with a project like that. I was in it and I was committed to watching it the whole time, but I did feel like they did it a bit too much. It could have been maybe a 12-minute edit when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, so I have some things to say about that, I guess. But yes, I agree with what you're saying, but about pacing, because it felt like, okay, this is kind of like, there's some shots that are just kind of being held. But I actually didn't think that was as much of the problem as much as the music choice during those moments are slow and don't feel like anything's happening. It's hard for me to articulate it because this is a feeling that I'm getting, as it's like less about like the technical component to it, but I felt less hype during a lot of it, where it's like, wow, that was really incredible, but why am I not feeling like that was so incredible? And I point to that largely towards the music, because the moments that I felt more in it were, in my opinion, better music choices.
Well, so the funny thing, because this is, I'm sure, like kind of what you would lead to, or what you would lead to here is then they hit Justin Louis' part, and it's Method Man, Release Your Delf. It's like total pace change. You go from old music, you go from soul music, you go from rock, all of a sudden to probably, I'm guessing, like early 2000s hip hop.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird, because then you get, okay, so now we're Justin Louis. Now we're on Justin Louis. See, we did that, right? And I feel like, I'm just going to go ahead and say this is kind of mean. I feel like he didn't deserve to get that shine at that moment. I feel like you could have kicked in, if you were going to kick in hard. It makes sense with that track. Like if you're trying to do a grimy, hard-hitting parkour video, Method Man, great choice. That's a great choice. Method or Red, either one of them, great choice if you're trying to do that kind of video, and it does match his style. I just felt like it was weird that like that's when the video was gonna all of a sudden be like feeling like it was edited more to the music, whereas what you're saying is like the music didn't match. Yeah. And I get that. You have Justin Louis, who didn't land a single jump in the entire video, and kudos to him for sending all that stuff. Absolutely amazing. I am way more scared of walls than he is, and I probably can't jump as far. But a bit of a weird thing to be known for is the guy who's just like smashing into walls.
Eats it. This is it was cool in the first two capstones, or like the very first one, where it was like, wow, sending like massive like level or downward arm jumps / cat leaps, and they're not quite making it, but they're still coming out unscathed. He just looked like he ate 3 like bad landings, and then it's being celebrated as like, this is his part.
You survived! Yay!
You survived it, and this is actually, and I feel like so old right now talking about this, but and the reason I feel old is because back in the day, like nobody would have liked. Like so many people would have hated on this video as a result of, maybe not the whole thing, but at that part, so many people would be hating on it because it doesn't reflect the culture and values of parkour. But now we've gotten so far away from the original culture and values of parkour that's not only accepted, but it's cool. And this is actually, I do have a problem with this. And now I'm not against height drops. I'm not against sending, but he literally didn't land anything in his whole part, and and it kind of like we got like a funny comment of people a couple episodes back when we were talking about the trailer and how Justin Louis like smoking cigarettes and stuff, and we mentioned he's smoking cigarettes and how that's kind of dumb for like a young person to be doing. this is also dumb. Like, welcome, I also think this is dumb because
they fit together though.
They do, because he clearly doesn't care about his body or his health. And again, I'm willing to sacrifice some level of my own like personal health for some elements of parkour, like acknowledging that I'm taking risk here. But like it's kind of silly. I mean, as you mentioned, to be known for the guy who's just eating it. Like what? Like at least Dom does like really impressive stuff. He also eats it.
Yeah.
But he does very impressive stuff. Justin Louis, like, I was super underwhelmed by his part, and it was unfortunate that they even included it. Like, I feel like, okay, yeah, like maybe include it, but as like a I know I'm going on here, but maybe include it as like a hype thing. But I don't like, man, like, just so dumb. Like, why don't we care about our bodies here a little bit? Like, there's so many more better athletes in the video that like had more control, but were also sending big.
Yeah, I mean, until he like does the story change it if he actually lands one of the I'm again, I only watched it once. I know there's like a cat leap or two in there. Like, if he actually lands and hangs on, does it change? I think it does. I think it changes dramatically if he actually completes these. But it's like, I remember, I think I was having a conversation with Daryl Stingley about, he brought up like, I think it was, oh God, if he's watching this, like, sorry if this wasn't you, man, but I think he was talking about this clip of Kadori where he does a running like splat and then just kind of like hits it and slides down, and it doesn't look good. And he's like, and then he's celebrating after, and Daryl's like, is that like what he was hoping for? Is that or is it just like, and is that what, Justin Louis is hoping for? Is that part of that? Because they're from the same place, So we got Dom, we got Kadori, we got Justin Louis. Are they all just trying to like hit things where it's like, okay, I'm going for this. If I make it, sick. If I kind of eat it, also sick.
Watching this capstone and being so critical of Justin Louis' part, it's not like Kadori didn't take big drops or do like big splats or anything like that. But it's just when he does it, it looks like intentional and more well controlled.
See, it's intentional.
And it feels like he's actually doing a skilled movement, not just throwing his body at the wall. And it does take skill to be able to like get out of these circumstances without being injured. Well, we don't know if he's not injured. He could be hiding something, but Kadori's part was awesome. Like, there was some really great moments in Kadori's part. It's a similar style of like splats and like maybe not making the jump or something, but man, like it's just literally he does three jumps and all three of them he fails pretty like badly. Mm-hmm. So it's okay. Like when are we gonna be done with this trend in parkour? Because I would be.
Is it a trend though? Like,
well, it is for him because like his Capstone Australia video he did the same thing. He like ate it in pretty much every clip, right? So anyway, like I could go on about it, but at the end of the day, what are we celebrating in parkour, right? Big achievements.
Yeah.
Capstone feels like should be big achievements. Even Dominic Fichtenbauer's Kong, he didn't land it clean, but you know what? He controlled it well.
That was cool.
And it was the biggest, most technical send probably of the video. So, that's something we celebrate. Is Justin Louis' part, we don't celebrate that.
Well, you're saying like, okay, so you're talking about the Kong pre to the rail that he does. So he kind of like does like a slip step vault out of it.
Yeah, I think he hit his butt.
Kind of. Yeah, okay. Well, but I don't know, did he, I guess he just sent it once. I guess it was one and done. And that kind of seems to be the thing is like, one and done, that's the attitude. I don't really have a problem with that. That seems to be like how Dom approaches a lot of bigger challenges too. And he has that one where he, was it a 360 dive roll that he kind of like makes it off to the side? But it's like, that one's cool because like it was kind of clean.
Yeah.
Like he
like over-rotated, but he went into another roll.
He missed target, went into another roll. He's celebrating. The firefighters come by. He gets like the nod and the wave and everything and the cheers. but it was kind of clean. Like he didn't look like he hurt himself. Another thing Dom did in the past year is he did a crazy big side flip to a slanted wall for Red Bull.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you could compare that to, and I think he's still recovering from the ankle injury that caused, but I don't know if he celebrated that in really the same way.
No, he definitely did.
I mean, he
was like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be like, part of it is just what those kind of setbacks can do to you, depending on how long you're out for. Yeah,
I will have to say, like, I'm very surprised how much Dom showed up, considering how injured his ankle was.
But when was it filmed?
Was
this before or after Red Bull?
It was after, I'm pretty sure. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay.
He might comment on this. Another thing though that might get commented on here is like defense. And like sure, I'm sure you can defend Justin Louis. I'm sure his regular training does not look like this all the time. I'm sure he lands things. I'm sure he lands impressive things. The thing is though, and like this is kind of something with just videos in general, is like if you put something out like that and you don't have a lot of that stuff, so say he has like, which he doesn't, but let's say he has his Instagram, his personal Instagram, like full of stuff being landed and it's clean or whatever, and then this just comes out. He doesn't have that even, but let's say he does. When you put out a piece, you have to assume no one knows anything. It's up for like public, it's like, you put out dive holes, you have to assume that someone who is watching dive holes has no idea about what you're doing. If like the bigger the audience you're putting it out there, but even like parkour people has no idea who you are, what you're doing, how it even works, like how hard it is. Just assume they know nothing, and then go from there. Because again, you can make artistic choices, you can do what you like, but you can't really complain about criticism if you don't address the fact that no one actually in this day and age, with YouTube and Instagram, social media, whatever, no one knows what you're doing. And so if you have a problem with how people react, you have to make sure that what you're putting out there is informative to people who don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about get back to like what I liked about it, because I'm getting depressed here talking about like how much I hated like that celebrating failure in the way that we were celebrating failure by watching it. So who was your standout athlete?
Okay, can we on the count of three?
Okay, yeah, ready?
So 1, 2, 3, and then name. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Hang on. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Joe Scandrick. Hey, let's go. I was so hoping for that.
Yeah.
Close second for me would have been Dominic Fichtenbauer.
Yeah. Same.
But I need to watch it again because man, the show stealer. Like there was the same thing for us when we watched Breach.
Yep.
And it's interesting because he's not the one doing the things that seem to cause the most bodily harm, but he has just the bag of tricks, the surprises. I don't know. You watched it twice, so you go in and I'll try to see if I can remember.
He does like the koala descent, like that is absolutely massive. Like I don't even know how many stories that was, but it was crazy how many he did. He did another descent that's like on those white rails coming down. He does a number of like hanging gainers, and one of them was like to a slant, and he just like slides down. I was like, and they showed his prep where they had like a board that they were holding, and so he did that. And I don't know if that was the only prep he did, but it looked like after doing that one prep, how would you feel confident to do it over the height? I don't know. I don't get it. And then he did the like support swing leg backflip into like the I don't know what we're gonna call that, chimney slide.
By the way, I love that. Another thing I was talking about with Daryl stayed with me for like a month recently, so we had a lot of these conversations. But I was for my project, I was hoping to do one of those, and I thought I had found one, and it just like doesn't work because I think it is one of those things where it's like it's so parkour to me, and Daryl was like, oh, they look kind of like stupid sometimes, and I was like, I think they look cool. Awesome. I think they look cool as shit. Yeah, like the chimney like slide because there's some place I just haven't found like
maybe UBC
a good one. Yeah. And there's also like the technique is different slightly different depending on the width and stuff. It's just like foot pressure mostly, but yeah, Dom actually posted one on Instagram. Like I saw, did you see that today?
Yeah.
Where he's like, "This is my full-time job." Oh man.
Yeah. So Joe's part stood out like crazy to me. Was there anybody else? You said Dominic Fichtenbauer.
Yeah, Dominic Fichtenbauer, I think like just really belongs in a Capstone video. Like keep throwing him in there because there's been some conversations about like, oh, what if they did an American edit and stuff like that. And if they're gonna continue to kind of go around with like the usual suspects, he's definitely got to be in there again. I feel like I would have liked to. It was interesting because he finishes the video.
Yes, he's
Fichtenbauer, and it's like, yeah, like pretty good. I kind of wanted to see him earlier again with the song, like yeah, like he got the Method Man, he got the more like hype track that didn't have like the same vibe as everything else. But yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen him earlier in the video instead of at the end. But then like it also I can't disagree with like ending strong because it did end strong and you're like, okay, cool. Like I'm more likely to like rewatch after that.
Yeah, I'm always a proponent of ending strong. Mm-hmm. Actually, one thing I was disappointed by was they didn't have like a post-credit kind of like B-roll or like any kind of personality.
Well, I mean, the video was so long to begin with.
Yeah, well, like the credits came up and I was like, oh, cool, like we're gonna see some fun personality here at the end, and then it was just like, oh, I just got an ad and it's moving to the next video. I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah. I wanted to quickly just one athlete that stood out to me because it was very different for him is Drew. Yeah, I was very, very surprised because so here's what happened in my head. I was watching and Benja's part comes up. And Benja's movement is lovely. He does so many things that are next level. The cool thing with the hose and everything, but I didn't really feel like it matched with Capstone very well. And then Drew comes on screen next, and it's just him and his title, and I was like, "Ooh, this is about to get worse." Like that was my initial thought was because Drew. I can't say he's really known for that style. Clearly, he can live up to it. But
big dive roll, man. That was awesome.
Was massive. And the front flip. So I was absolutely blown away. Hats off to Drew because, I felt like you have to remember too, like he absolutely shattered his ankle years ago. And so to be coming back and to be sending big stuff like that, just. Yeah, I don't want to clap because of the microphone, but I would be right now.
Yeah, I agree. I loved Drew's part. Actually, I was also surprised by his performance in this. I thought Benj had some cool stuff in there. Another part that I enjoyed was it's actually more just a single move was the double Kong by Tim Champion towards the beginning. Mm-hmm. Whew. The hefty drop. That's a Capstone clip.
That is,
you know?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But so I guess like just watching it felt like if they wanted to do the part video the way they did it with like the individual names, I felt like each athlete needed more, and each clip had to be a Capstone clip, and it felt like some of the clips weren't Capstone clips, and some of and this is hard because we're in an era where like you see incredible things on Instagram all the time, so it's like, what do I use for this Instagram versus what do I use for a Capstone versus something in between? I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like I can go through and like pull out some of like the greatest moments of this video, and then that could be edited down to a 5-minute video and it would have been extremely hype of a video, you know? Instead of a 17-minute long where it was like, some of it was like great, some of it was maybe just missed the mark a little bit.
I'm a little torn on that one. Like, I don't know if I can see the logic for that. So as soon as you said that, it reminded me of Insurgents, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Insurgents?
The Modus video.
Yeah, which was like bang, 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 but it's almost like overwhelming, and there's no room to breathe.
I agree.
In between the things, and so I was like earlier, I said like 12 minutes, and I feel like that would have. Yeah. For me, I think they would have got the breathing room and everything, but it just needed to be. I don't know if they wanted to use like whole songs or something, and that was part of it, because I did like the music. I know you feel a bit differently, but I did like the music, particularly because it was similar to just like stuff I've been listening to recently.
Not that I didn't like the music, it's that it didn't. Some of it just didn't feel like it.
It didn't feel like it was edited for. Yeah, for the music, like not enough. A lot of wide shots, like they got the zooms and stuff, but not enough coverage really. Like not enough.
You know, this is something I did want to say was that there was some like obvious scenario, like clips that they had from a different angle because you could see the filmer in the other shot, but they didn't show that, and it was like, oh man, like I wish I would have seen that from the other angle. But we don't know if it was better or worse, but it did feel like there was some clips in there where it was just like, man, I want to see the other angle, alternate angle for this one.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll put out like a behind the scenes or something.
Yeah. All right. Summary.
So how do I summarize this? Some of the craziest things that have ever happened in parkour. A bit slow for my liking for a parkour video. And maybe like a hair long, but overall, like the incredible feats of the athletes really made the video live up to a standard.
I will say again, I thought for me, best of all three. For me, best of all three, for movement, for filming, even all in, best of all three, all in. I think the brand, what they're trying to do and everything, it's just improving both with editing, filming, and movement skills. Everything is going up for me. I do, you know, we talked about some of the qualms I had. Some of it for me is like forgivable because I'm just seeing it as like, you know, cinema and sort of maybe the vibe they were going for. And I think it will hit with probably what their target is. So I think it works. Not for everybody, but yeah. CAPST #1 on YouTube. I think there's a .com at the end of that if you want to get the shirts look fly as hell too.
I agree. Yeah, really cool garms as they call them. I don't know if I'll get one, but
all right.
I heard they're selling out actually pretty well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Get on that.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, if you enjoyed our discussion about Capstone Swarm, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. We got more coming soon.